Today we are going to talk about loading data into a warehouse. So, and specifically, we are looking at how to load data from a lakehouse into a warehouse using T-SQL in Microsoft Fabric. So, before we dive in, let's clarify the difference between a lakehouse and a warehouse. A lakehouse is essentially a data lake with some database-like features. You store files like CSV, percolate files, JSON in a lake, and Fabric gives you a SQL endpoint to query them um, as if they were like a tables. It's great for storing raw, unstructured, or semi-structured data at massive scale. Warehouse, on the other hand, is a relational database optimized for analysis or analytics. And data is structured in tables with defined schemas. You have full SQL capabilities. You can do all those DML and DDL operations mm, over there. So why use both? Because they serve different purposes. You might ingest raw, like thing that sends data into a lakehouse initially. It's flexible, scalable, and inexpensive storage. Then you want to transform that data, structure it properly with facts and dimensions, and after that load it into a warehouse where analytical queries will run fast and efficiently. So the beauty of Fabric is that you don't need complex ETL tools to move data between them. You can query Lakehouse data directly from your warehouse using cross database queries, and it's all within the same Fabric workplace, all using T-SQL. Now let's talk about the cross database query capability because it's really the secret sauce here. In Fabric, your lakehouse automatically gets a SQL endpoint. That means even though your data is stored as files, you can reference those files as tables using SQL. Now, here is the magic. From your data warehouse, you can write T-SQL queries that reference tables in your lakehouse. The syntax is straightforward. You just specify the lakehouse name and the table name, and you can select from it. Also join it with warehouse table, whatever you need. This this is actually incredible, like kind of powerful tools for ETL scenarios. You don't need to export data from the lakehouse to a file and then import that file to into warehouse. You don't need to separate integration tools. You can just simply query the lakehouse table and insert the results directly into a warehouse table, all in with T-SQL. From the warehouse, you can also create a view um, that points to the lakehouse table, and you can query it as if it were a local table, even though the underlying data is stored in completely different storage. Now that staging tables and views, if we did the concept, think that uh, what is actually data warehouse staging? The idea behind staging is that you do not load raw data directly into like to the final fact and dimensions tables. You bring it into an intermediate staging area first, where you can validate it, transform it, and prepare it for final loading. So in Fabric, that staging area can be like our lakehouse. A raw data lands there, maybe through an ingestion pipeline or file upload. Then from your warehouse, you can create a view that references the staging table. So this view acts as a bridge. So now, why actually we use a view instead of directly querying the Lakehouse table every time? Because of convenience and abstraction, the view hides the cross database references. Other developers do not need to know or care that the data physically resides in a lakehouse. They just query the view and it looks like they are like a, for them it's another table in the warehouse. Again, think that other underlying, like if structure changes, maybe we need to rename the lakehouse or reorganize tables. But this case, we only need to update the view definition in one place. All the queries and stored procedures uh, that use the view continue to work without any modifications. Now, let's talk about stored procedures. Stored procedures is basically a saved SQL scripts that you can execute by name, or it can contain complex logic within a multiple steps. We'll go through the lab and we'll see actually how that works. So we can just uh, use a parameter. So it will takes a parameter. In our case, we'll use the year of data load. Then it performs the operations. So normally it performs uh, three main steps. First, it loads the customer dimensions. It selects distinct customer from staging. This is specific to the lab that we are going to do. But here is the key. It checks whether each customer already exists in the dimensions table. If they do, it will skip them. This is called an incremental load. You are only inserting new customer, not like duplicating existing ones. Second, it does the same thing for the item dimensions. Again, checking for the present before inserting to avoid duplicates. Third, it loads the fact table with sales transaction for that year that we are going to passing. This is what the actual sales metric lives: order dates, quantities, prices, and so on. So the fact table uses keys that references the dimensions table, creating those relationship we that we mentioned earlier. So now we'll proceed with the lab. So let's start that one. So in this lab, we will go through load data into a warehouse using transact SQL. So mainly I'm going to do that in a DML operation here. So let's start the lab. Very first thing, you need to create a workspace. So here we have connected to Microsoft Fabric. Select on workspace, click new workspace. And under advanced section, see the licensing mode and click on make sure that Fabric capacity is enabled and click on apply. So empty workspace has been created now. I'll create a lakehouse, select new item, search for lakehouse, select the lakehouse, give a lakehouse name, click create. So lakehouse has been created. Now let's download the data for this lab. sales.csv. Under download, I'm saving that one. Let's go back. Now here under files folder, select upload and upload the sales file that you have downloaded. And make sure that and the files has been uploaded here. Now create a table inside this Lakehouse. Select this button here, options, upload. No, here is fine. So load two tables and create a new table and give the table name. And here header to columns name has been selected and separator is comma. Select load. So it's going to create a table there, staging underscore sales table. Now here you see the table has been created, data table. Now create a warehouse. So go to that, you can go here like a workspace. Create a new item. Give a warehouse. So a new warehouse has been created here. Now we are going to create a fact table, dimensions table, and then create a view. Select this warehouse and from here under SQL, select the new SQL query. So here we are going to create a sales table. Customer table. So here we are going to create few tables here. So let's execute that one. So that has been created. So let's see under schema, sales schema, because we have created all under sales schema. Expand tables. Let me refresh that one. Here you can see these tables that I have created. Now we are going to create a view. So let's open another SQL query tab. So here creating view based on our staging sales table. So we need to know Lakehouse name. Lakehouse name is This is why this is Lakehouse. So DFL Lakehouse TS01. Execute that one. DFLH. I'm getting message that is invalid object's name. Your Lakehouse name. DFLH TS01. Okay, this time it looks good. So maybe some space there. We have created a staging table under views. We can say that staging cells view is there. So now we'll do load data to the warehouse. So now that the fact and dimension tables are created, we are going to create a state procedure to load the data from our Lakehouse into the warehouse. Because of the automatic SQL endpoint created when you create the Lakehouse, you can directly also access the data in your Lakehouse from the warehouse using T-SQL. So now open a SQL query window. So here we are going to create a procedure where we'll pass the year to get the value. So let's execute that one. Say procedure has been created under cells. Stored procedures, if you go there, so load from data staging. So we have created a stored procedures here. Now let's use that procedure to get a data. So open a separate SQL query window. And we are executing that procedure passing the parameter value, which is here. So it's executing. So after that, to validate the data, let's open another SQL query tab. And if we execute the query, this one, it will show us total sales data only for year 2021 only. So here is the customer name and here is the total sales for that particular year. we are going to execute a separate SQL where we'd like to see the top selling items, like top selling items by, and on that particular year. Let's see, execute that one, and group by item name based on total sales. So here you can see the which are the top selling item and how much was the total sales. Select another query. Let's execute little more. So now here we are going to use the case option to get the category. Like there is three categories: helmet, bike, and globes. So based on that case, we're going to see the total sales. And from here we can see the customer for each category, like who is the top customer and how much was the total sales. So that's it for this lab. And you can clean the workspace. See you in next lab.